one of the big keys to my success was getting into a network, doing everything I could to provide value. And that helped me not only to find partners, but to be able to be a good partner.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. And welcome back to Weiss Advice. I'm your host, Yona Weiss, and it is a beautiful day here. It is such a pleasure to have you joining me, and I'm joined by my good friend, Brian Briscoe.
Hey, Brian. Thanks, Yona. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Well, I appreciate you coming down and taking the time out of your busy day. It's Memorial Day. We're recording this, which is
Memorial Day.
To you, this probably means a lot more than to most people.
It is a special day. It's one that I woke up and, I'm actually working nights at the Pentagon right now. Been active duty for 19 years and change. But, I got up and I'm taking part in your 10-day challenge right now. And I was thinking, what can I post? I'm like, it's Memorial Day. So I put down a little video, to the tune of Taps, which is, it's a single bugle that plays. And it's just a very solemn, reverent song. And that's, I took a moment to reflect this morning. Memorial Day is really about those people who've died for our freedom, so it's interesting. I get a lot of people who tell me thanks for my service today, but it's really about the ones who didn't come back that we're memorializing today. But happy Memorial Day to you, and happy Memorial Day to everyone who's listening. Just, I know nobody's going to hear this for a couple of weeks, but hopefully you'll take a little bit of time just to sit and reflect.
Right, and every day is a good day to thank and to have the gratitude for obviously those who have served our amazing country and those who have served, and paid the ultimate price. Yeah. And I want to thank you, Brian, for that. And just a little introduction. Brian, he just already introduced himself that he is 19 years in active duty as a Marine officer, now currently stationed in the Pentagon.
Right.
Okay. But a little background, besides that, Brian is most known to those of us who know him as the director of operations at Four Oaks Capital. Okay. They're a real estate investment firm. They're buying apartment buildings, multifamily investment properties. But, some might say that takes first place. Some might say that's secondary to being a lieutenant colonel, major?
Lieutenant colonel now. Yeah, I've been lieutenant colonel for about a year and a half, and it really depends on what the day is. I'm fortunate that my role in the Pentagon, I'm a Latin American foreign area officer, and so anything where headquarters Marine Corps intersects Latin America, I'm right in the middle of that. Fortunately, the Pentagon right now is not. They don't really prioritize Latin America. It's almost bottom of the bucket as far as where the resources are going, which means that, my role ends up being a break glass in case needed a lot. I mean, it's not quite that, but I do have a little extra time during most days where I've been able to, set up phone calls during the day, or go sit on Wi-Fi down at the gym, which is the only reliable Wi-Fi at the Pentagon, sit at the gym, behind my iPad or on my iPhone, sending emails, texts, or even Zoom calls.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and, obviously you couldn't do what you're doing if you didn't have an awesome team supporting you.
Right.
Obviously multifamily investing it's pretty much a full-time job, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're doing it solo, you better be doing it full-time. You better not have a full-time job, something else, and also investing in multifamily real estate, unless, you're just doing that passively. But owning apartment buildings is a lot of moving parts, and you're fortunate to have a great team.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am absolutely very fortunate, and, even more fortunate is they actually have a lot more flexibility in their day jobs, my job, I still have to show up to the Pentagon every day, so that's kind of a must do. And there's a certain expected time for me to be there. But my partners right now don't quite have the same leash that I'm on. So a little more freedom for them, and they're able to move around a little more freely. They're able to get to the locations without any problem. So one of my partners, actually all of my partners, travel frequently throughout the Carolinas with their day jobs, so when their day job takes them to Greenville, they're looking at apartments in Greenville or checking up on our apartment, in the neighboring city of Spartanburg. So their flexibility has really made it a lot easier for me to be sitting in my, job and put my perch in the Pentagon, so to speak. I get down there as often as I can, though.
But you've probably learned, I mean, obviously being in the military has given you that ability to, be a team player. Obviously, that's something that I think a lot of people take for granted is the structure of the military is, being a team player, right? You're not alone. You're not an entrepreneur in the military.
No. I mean, everybody's either, just to use a military term, you're either the main effort or you're in support, so if you're the main effort, you're the one that's getting the support from everybody. So no matter what, there is that team effort, and it takes more than just, infantry. Marine Corps idolizes the infantry for very good reason, but behind every infantryman are 3 or 4 Marines, doing other stuff that's supporting them. You've got Marines who are fixing airplanes who are flying overhead. You've got Marines who are on radio nets far away, making sure they have the right support they need. You have, Marines driving trucks around, make sure there's, that they have their, bullets and Band-Aids and beans, bullets and Band-Aids is what we call it, all the resupply stuff. So it's absolutely a team thing. And we realize that, one unit isn't good by itself. It needs the rest of the entity there. It's like the Rudyard Kipling quote, the strength of the wolf is the pack. It's the same thing in the military, and it's the same thing with real estate.
Right. Now, have you actually, obviously 19 years active duty, have you been in combat situations?
I've been in combat zones. Fortunately, my occupational specialty is one where I'm not infantry, so I'm not combat arms. And combat arms are the guys who are expected to be the combat role. My job has always been to make sure the guys on the ground have appropriate air support. So if this is going to be on video, I mean, right behind me, you can see a placard with a bunch of aircraft on it. I was at a unit that flew a bunch of different types of aircraft, and my job was essentially, be the guy on the radio talking to the guys on the ground and the guys in the air. We're kind of a middleman, kind of a combat air traffic control, so to speak. So. Gotcha. And the nice part about that is I sit in the operations center. I've never been, outside the wire, as we say. Never had to worry about, whether I was going to come back in after a patrol. So,
gotcha.
I've been in combat zones, been deployed to Iraq, been deployed to Afghanistan, been on 2 ship deployments where we were the kind of a ready force, but never in actual combat.
Well, that's fortunate. Yeah. And can we do have the video here. For those of you watching, can we tilt the camera a little bit, because you got a big word on the wall over there.
Yeah.
What is that?
Hustle. So hustle, verb, and then it says the most important word ever. It's written like a dictionary for those who are just listening, but our SEC attorney sent that to me. So he's a great attorney. We've done 3 syndications with him, doing the SEC filings for us, and actually 4, because we're about to close on number 4, and he's already done all the paperwork. So, yeah, he sent that to me a couple months ago, and I saw it, and it went immediately up on the wall. It was just like, I know, perfect spot for that. So it's something that's I think it's absolutely necessary. You got to get out there. You got to hustle. You got to be making the phone calls. You got to be talking to people, and, for me, that's a lot of late nights. That's a lot of weekends. Occasionally that means that I take a day off of work just to do real estate, or I take a week off of work just to do real estate.
That's incredible. And just to have a little bit of an idea, I mean, you mentioned earlier on that you're, in the Pentagon and working in the Latin American kind of that role and that kind of advisory post with those relations. That didn't come overnight. I mean, I know a little bit of a backstory you share with me, but how long have you known the Spanish or Portuguese languages for?
I served a mission for my church when I was 19. Throw the years out there, 96 to 98. So I'm 43. If anybody's doing the math. So started learning at age 19. And then learned Portuguese about 5 or 6 years ago. We were going to get stationed in Brazil, and this one was fortunately on the government's dime. They decided to put me in Brazil, make me a foreign area officer. So they also gave me the language training. So Spanish for over 20 years and Portuguese now for 5 or 6.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, one of the questions I always ask people is, what's a skill or talent that you would most like to learn? And I find it interesting. A lot of people ask that, answer that with they'd like to learn a foreign language. And, you knowing a foreign language, I'm also fluent in 3 languages, but and a little bit in Spanish. Now, I can't hold my own anymore. I took 3 years in high school Spanish, but that's about it. But something about knowing another language and being able to think in another language is something that is hard to describe for someone who doesn't know a foreign language. Because
I think when you get to the point to where you're actually thinking in a foreign language, that's when you know that you've got it. That's kind of like the point of, I understand this language well enough. If you're not thinking in the foreign language, you're not there yet. Is kind of my opinion. But
I think it's a great analogy to real estate and to multifamily investing into real estate, because until you really get it, and you're immersing yourself in it for years. And there's a lot of people out there, and I'm sure you can attest to this, that they're want to get involved and overexcited and they just want to do their first deal and everything. But there's so many concepts, so many things about it. And you don't really get that until you literally immerse yourself in it and jump into a deal or apprentice someone who is buying, owning real estate and learning from them.
That is actually a very good analogy. I love it. The Portuguese course the military sent me to was 8 hours a day for 6 months. It wasn't an easy course, and it came with 3 or 4 hours of homework on the back end. And even then, I wasn't exactly fluent. So the amount of time it takes you to become fluent in another language, it really is the same. You have to put so much work in before you can actually be successful at a foreign language. You're right. It is exactly the same thing here. There's a lot of work on the front end that a lot of people don't realize when they see people, syndicating apartments. They don't realize that there's 3 or 4 years worth of study and, planning and, education on the front end.
Yeah. And the experience that, comes along with that, which you can only really get from partnerships. So let's talk about partnerships for a second, because I know you're big on, partners. Obviously, you have partners that you're working with right now, and you had mentors that you've, taken that. How has that played a role in? Could you see yourself doing this on your own?
Oh no, absolutely not. It's just there's too many moving parts, And if I were doing this on my own, I would probably have maybe a 6-unit complex, because that's about what I'd have time for. And my time isn't consistent, So, right now, temporarily, I'm on the COVID task force, So I'm actually working 4 days straight, and I'm off for 4 days, which means my days off drift every week. So I can't put a single day on the calendar and say every Monday we're going to have a call, which is what we do. One of our property managers, we have a call every Monday. Another property manager, we have a call every Friday. So I can no longer do that. But the partners and the mentors have been absolutely crucial. I'm not good at everything, but when you put me together with 3 other guys who all have different talents and skill sets, between the four of us, we've got most of the bases covered. We can do what we need to do. And the mentorship role has also been very crucial. My mentor, was through the Michael Blanc program, a guy named Josh, who's absolutely amazing. Incidentally, he just closed on 104 units in Augusta, Georgia this week.
Congratulations.
So, he's out there doing things. And, my partner, Todd, had a mentor through the Michael Blanc program. Incidentally, it was through the Michael Blanc program that we met, that all four of us came together. So, I think, the key, one of the big keys to my success was getting into a network, doing everything I could to provide value. And that helped me not only to find partners, but to be able to be a good partner, to be a viable partner. I wasn't just somebody, hanging on the sidelines or, sitting in the chairs in the corner during the high school dance, I was out there trying to give back. And, so was Eric Shirley, who was the first person out of the partnership that I met. He was also in the same forum, trying to give back, and so when we started talking to each other, little did we know what would end up happening of it, but we just started talking to each other casually at first, realized we were interested in the same areas. Mm-hmm. And so we started sharing underwriting. It's like, hey, I'm looking at this deal. Have you seen it yet? Oh yeah, I have. What do you think? We compared notes. Right. It was like, oh, I didn't know that. And at first that's really how it started out. And then we found one that we decided to try to put a joint offer in, and it just slowly grew to where, we liked each other, we worked well together, we trusted each other, and from there, that was really the genesis for us. But yeah, I couldn't do it without him or without the other two partners.
So what would you say, what advice would you give someone who's starting out, kind of in your shoes, wanting to learn, maybe they're going through a mentorship or maybe not, and they're listening to this podcast and they're thinking, hey, real estate investing sounds really cool. Multifamily, I've watched these podcasts and I'm really into it. What's the first thing that you would say?
Funny you ask, because I just got off a call with somebody who asked the same question. It's, won't say her name because I didn't ask her permission, but she's also in your 10-day CRE challenge, and she's a college student right now. And she asked a very similar question, and she's like, I don't have any money. What can I do? What can I bring to the table? You have to be able to bring something to the table. So you need to have a skill that is marketable. So in multifamily, be really good at something, one aspect of the business, whether it's underwriting, whether it's, finding deals and, building those relationships with brokers, or whether it's bringing money to the table or other people's money to the table. You've got to get really good at one of those things.
One of those three.
And yeah.
Now I want to repeat that because I think it's really important. So the three main aspects you're saying is, one is finding deals, obviously having this relationship with brokers. Finding money or bringing money, investors, bringing money.
And then the analysis.
Analysis, underwriting.
The analysis is part of the finding deals. It's part of putting the deals together. But, I think it is a separate skill than actual, calling the brokers and the negotiation. So, yeah, you get really good at one of those things and start trying to give back, some way give back. And, call it karma, call it, whatever, So I had an epiphany one day a long time ago. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have others do to you. Right. So, and I realized one day that you could follow that rule for purely selfish reasons. Mm-hmm. Because what I found is the more you give, the more time I give to other people, it comes back to you, many more times over than what you actually give. So, you can actually selfishly follow the golden rule just because of, how it works out. It's just amazing like that. I think that's really the secret is just, start giving back, and eventually, you're going to make a connection that ends up turning into a partnership or something fruitful.
Absolutely. And what would you say the first thing to look out for? Because, I'm sure you spoke to a lot of people before you found this guy, this partner of yours who you're working with currently. But, I know a lot of people, and I'm, maybe someone listening to this podcast saying, hey, I know a lot of people in multifamily, and I've reached out to them, but how do I know, not only who to partner with, but who to kind of stay away from? And I think I know the answer, but I'd love to hear what you have to say.
So trust is kind of a big deal. You have to trust people, but your interests also have to align. I came into this and, I had a very defined goal. I want to retire from the Marine Corps right when I get to my 20-year mark. I can stay longer, but I want to retire at my 20-year mark. So when I came
you don't want
into
to be
this,
a general. You don't want that.
So my occupational field actually has a glass ceiling. So general officer is not in the cards for me. In 245 years of history, the Marine Corps has made 2 generals in my occupational field. So the odds are against that even happening. But I've got a fair chance at colonel, but that's still a couple of years down the road. But, so I had a timeline. I wanted to, replace my income. Of course, I'll get a pension, but I wanted to replace my income by a certain date, and my partners all had a very similar time frame that they wanted to basically get out of the rat race. They all had a 2 to 3 year timeline when we met. Mm-hmm. And so we had very similar goals. We're in similar positions in life, which helped. We actually have very similar salaries too. So when we're looking at, what do I need to be able to retire, and not lose anything on standard of living, it was approximately the same number for all of us,
Oh.
So
alignment of interest really scored.
Yeah.
On that.
And that helped a lot. And, we would talk on the phone several times a week, and we had a weekly Zoom call that we would, I would walk down to the Pentagon every Friday at noon, no matter what was happening. That was our time, hour and 15 minutes every week. And it happened slowly. I mean, at first I was reluctant, I was confident that the other 3 were the right people for our first deal. We got something under contract, but after a while, it was just hard to say. It was a feeling, mm-hmm. It was just one of the things. This is a good thing, this is a good thing, I'm a very religious person. And I think, I think that, it was meant to be, and I felt that it was meant to be. And one of them one day called me and said, hey, I've been talking to the other guys, and we want to make this a permanent thing. We want to make a company, and we want to be, exclusive in real estate deals. Are you in? And I was already, mm-hmm. I'm like, yep, absolutely. But yeah, that's how we came to be, and just very fortunate, very blessed to have the great partners that I do in this business, and to have the mentors, and to have, platforms to be able to meet other people and to grow the business.
Awesome. So we talked about some things on the wall behind you, but I'm just curious because we've been on a few Zoom calls together, and I see that, I don't know, it looks like an axe or a hatchet or something behind you.
It's a tomahawk.
A tomahawk. Okay, so
yeah,
I got to blow my screen up a little bigger for it to see that.
So every unit, we usually give people going away gifts, and every unit has a moniker. And the call sign for this unit was Chieftain. So there you can see right there a little arrowhead coin with an Indian head on it. Mm-hmm. So what goes better on somebody's wall than a tomahawk, right? So one of the traditions is every time you leave a unit, you get a going away gift. So that's one of them. When I was with VMM 163. That's when I was with 3rd Lad Battalion. Their job is shooting aircraft out of the sky instead of keeping them flying. Mm-hmm. That one right there is another one. And I've got a couple of them that aren't up on the wall yet. They're, out in the wings here. But
beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. We kind of refer to it as the I Love Me wall, because you put all your, your going away stuff, and, it goes up there. But it's, when I saw every other podcaster with a really nice backdrop, I'm like, I got something.
Exactly. So, you gotta love what you have. All right, Brian, let's jump right into the final 4.
All right.
So the first question for you is, what was the worst job that you ever had?
I was a telemarketer.
In the Marines?
This was a long time. This
No,
was like teenager still. Oh, wow. Yeah.
I know the Marines had telemarketers.
Man,
No.
So there was life before the Marine Corps.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Telemarketing was by far, the worst job I had, trying to sell stuff that I didn't have any interest in to people who I was just cold calling, who had zero interest in it. But it paid the bills. I only did it for 4 months, and it was right before I went on my mission, and it was a higher paying job than what I had at the time. And, I decided, you know what, I can do this for 3 or 4 months because, my hourly wage is going to be 50% more than what I'm making as a lifeguard, which was an awesome job. And it was to save money to support myself on a mission.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what book have you read that has given you a paradigm shift?
Oh, there's a couple. Recently, I would say Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
I'm actually listening to that right now.
Yeah, it's a great book, and the idea of ownership, is something that's kind of pounded into us as Marines, but this just took it to a whole new level. It was, okay, that actually makes sense. And, if you look at other books that I think have had a profound, paradigm shift, I would say Stephen Covey's 7 Habits.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Robert Kiyosaki, of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Gary Keller's The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, and then my all-time favorite book, The Book of Mormon.
Awesome. Yeah. So third question for you is, what skill or trade would you like to learn?
Wow. What skill or trade would I like to learn? So I'd like to be able to do renovations myself. I mean, not that I would do it for like the company. I've always been pretty good with my hands. I've just never taken the time to learn how to do it. But, I think it would be fun, just to, do my own renovations at my house, build a retaining wall. We need one outside. That's why that comes up. But, do a remodel of a bathroom or whatever, but that there's one. And number 2 is, guitar. I've always been interested in playing guitar, not very good. So you got 2, bonus round.
No, awesome. And the fourth question is, what does success mean to you?
Success, I think, is more of a state of mind than it is, a destination. It's, are you happy with yourself? Are you happy with where you are in life? It's not about bank account. It's about lifestyle, and I've also learned that once again, happiness is also not a destination. It's who you are. Are you happy with yourself? That's a question only you can answer. And I think once upon a time I realized, in Chile as a 19-year-old missionary, the people who were absolutely dirt poor were still happier than the average American, and it was just mind-blowing for me to see that. It was just, they have absolutely nothing as far as possessions go, but they're happy, So yeah, it's being happy. Absolutely. It's a state of mind. Success is a state of mind.
Absolutely. Unbelievable. So I totally agree with that. I love your answers, and I appreciate you so much coming on the show, Brian. Where can our listeners find you if they choose to do so?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So just Brian Briscoe, search me. If you click on any one of Yona's posts, there's probably a like for me. And, our website is fouroakscapital.com, all spelled out, 4 Oaks Capital, or my email address, just first name, last name, Brian Briscoe, no punctuation, at fouroakscapital.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brian.
All right.
Appreciate you coming on and taking the time with us today and sharing some unbelievable, beautiful words of wisdom. And, I want to thank our listeners for joining us once again for another episode of Weiss Advice. And don't forget, the best advice only comes when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.